This is an overview of the list widget by Unlimited Elements for Elementor. What this widget lets you do, it lets you add ordered and unordered lists to your page. You can also connect them to remote controls and sync them with other widgets. So over here you can see the remote tabs, and it's synced to a content slider over here. You can override the styles in each one of the items to give them different colors, as you can see as well over here. You can set it to be a grid rather than just a list, and you can connect it to different source types and later on connect it to filters and pagination. So a lot of stuff you can do with this widget. Without no more further ado, let's jump in and get started. To get started, I'm going to search for the list widget inside of the widgets pane and drag and drop it into the Elementor canvas. What this widget does, it's a ordered list, which can also show an unordered list. So to change the list type, you have over here, and instead of index, I'm going to change that to icon, and now you can see it's showing icons instead of the numbers, the index number of the items. Over here, we can change the title tag to whatever you want. That depends on your SEO purposes. If you're not sure what you want, you can just set it to div. The next part over here is for gap, so we can change the gap between the different items. Let's set that to 60. And we can also change the number of columns. So rather than showing it just as a list, it can also be sort of a grid. Take in mind that both these features or settings are a responsive field. So if you want to change the number of columns on a different device or the gap, you can do that as well. Let's jump into the next section, and I'm going to jump into sequence entrance animation and change this to from the left. You can see these are animating from the left. You can also change all the different types of settings to customize this to your needs. But the idea is that once a user scrolls down to the list, then it will animate in the animation that's selected. So let's just show another one over here, which looks really awesome. Over here inside of general, I'm going to change the number of columns to 1 and add a new column on the right side. And jump into the next section, which is really important. This is called connected widget settings. And over here, we can connect this to different types of widgets. You can connect it to sliders, carousels, accordions, hotspots, tabs, any type of widget that also has this section showing connected widget settings. And most of our item-based widgets have this. So I'm going to enable remote control, enable sync, and just show a really easy and quick use case. So I'm going to add a content accordion. I'm going to add a content carousel and drag and drop that inside over here. Inside of layout, I'm going to turn off the content, the arrows, and the dots. And inside of general, I'm going to leave just one item. So what we want to achieve is that when a user clicks over here, it's going to change the image on the right side. To make sure that works appropriately, then we need to make sure that there's the same number of items. So over here there are 3 items, and over here there are 4. So let's delete the last one so these can sync together. And now we can go into connect widget settings and enable remote and sync. Now these two should be already working together. So I'm going to save the page, preview the page, and now when I click over here on the left side, it's navigating the right side, which is really cool. That's what sync is about. Now, this is a good time to jump into style over here, and you can see that we have different states. We have a hover state and an active state for the item. So over here in the hover state, I'm just going to make a really subtle gray, and in the active state, I'm going to make a little darker gray. And you can see that now when I hover, It's showing a subtle gray, and this is the selected one over here. Let's add some padding as well so it won't be so close to each other. And now we can also add some remote navigation. There's all sorts of remote. If you write remote, you'll see all sorts of navigation. But I'm going to add remote arrows here on the top. And now I can use the arrows, not just the list or the carousel to navigate, but I can use that remote navigation to navigate between the different items. So that's just showing a really awesome use case, showing the flexibility of this and how you can take advantage of unlimited elements on your website. Let's show the last use case that I want to show today, which is explaining how to use different types of sources within the list. So I'm going to add the list again to the page. So we have kind of a fresh start over here. And the next part over here is for list source. As you can see, you can change the different source types to take advantage of this widget. And just as an example, if I change it to menu, it's going to show menu items over here. So you can use all sorts of different source types available. The most popular one, of course, is post, because WordPress is working with posts. And once you change that to posts, then you will be able to see the part with post query and post pagination and filtering. And I want to show you guys a quick example of how you can use these. So over here inside of post query, I'm going to include desserts and cocktails in my list. And now it's not showing anything because I need to change it to or, because it needs to have desserts or cocktails. And the next part we want to do is tell it which text and which image to show over here. So in list source, I'm going to go to text source and choose post intro. And now you can see that it's populating the correct data inside of the text in my list. The next part is to tell it that the image source needs to be true. So over here, I'm going to add a static value and set the value of the images to true. And now it's showing those images. Let's jump back into general, set the number of columns to 3. And jump into style, and over here inside of image we can set the height of those images just so that looks properly. And the next part, I'm going to add some maybe pagination and filtering. So over here we're going to change the pagination to use pagination widget, and in filtering we're going to enable filters. Inside of item post query, rather than showing 10 posts, I'm going to show only 6 posts. And now we have only 6 showing. Now we can add the pagination widget, drag and drop that inside, and update the page, preview the page, and now you can use the navigation over here to paginate between the different pages of our query. So that's really awesome. To finish this up, I'm just going to add a filter just so you can see how easy it is to add filters. So drag and drop the tab filter over here. And inside of the term selection, we're going to include by specific terms. And it's going to be the same terms that we added to our grid over here, or to our list. I'm going to save that. And now you can see that we have an option to filter just desserts or just cocktails, or show everything all together. So that's pretty awesome. And you can use this to show maybe the most popular posts on your page, the latest posts, all sorts of different ways, because over here, if you'll see in include by, you have all sorts of ways to determine what you want to include inside of your list. So for example, most viewed posts or something like that. And that's nice because it's numbering them one by one with the index of the list. So many ways to take advantage of this widget. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial, and I'll see you in the next video.